Now, just as I found myself agreeing with the notion of beauty's power to inspire and surprise, I also thought, what difference does this really make? Where would we be without it? As much as I love to reflect on ideas, what matters to me is where these ideas hit the ground. With our limited resources and so many serious issues confronting us, is it frivolous to spend time and money on beauty? Does beauty really matter? In her 1999 book on beauty and being just, Harvard University professor Elaine Scarry presents a powerful case that beauty really does matter. She argues that beauty, in fact, has the power to inspire us to social justice. Scarry believes that there is a symmetry between beauty and justice, which is illustrated by the fact that our word fair means both beautiful and just or equitable. This relationship between beauty and justice redeems the pursuit of beauty as essential to our growth as a civilized society and defends it against those who would argue that the very consoling power of beauty can be politically dangerous. Their argument is that when those in a position of privilege are consoled, they are not provoked to act justly. Scarry strongly disagrees. She believes that beauty assists us in our attention to justice, for beauty demands a constant perceptual acuity that sharpens our attention to the world and renders us better able to discern problems of injustice. In Scarry's view, beauty deeply imprints the ideal of fairness in our imaginations, inspiring a desire for fair distribution, whether of beauty or other things in the world. Far from damaging our capacity to attend to problems of injustice, she contends, beauty instead intensifies the pressure we feel to repair existing injuries. Scarry also argues that beauty encourages us to place ourselves in more just relationship with the rest of the world. She suggests that beauty decenters the self, correcting our narcissistic tendency we have to see ourselves as the center of the world. A process she terms unselfing occurs when something beautiful fills the mind, yet invites the search for something beyond itself, with which it needs to be brought into relation. This directly supports our Unitarian Universalist principle of responsible truth and meaning. Based on these two major arguments, Scarry concludes that beauty not be seen as frivolous or politically dangerous, but rather essential to our creation of a just society. Bill Strickland agrees. Bill Strickland is excited and passionate about bringing beauty to inner city youth and adults of Pennsylvania. He is creator and CEO of Manchester Bidwell, a jobs training center and community arts program, offering programs in ceramics, photography, painting to hundreds of kids a year, the vast majority of whom were not finishing high school, but who now receive high school diplomas and enroll in college. Adults receive training as well in professional careers such as culinary arts and horticultural technology. In his recent book, Make the Impossible Possible, Strickland talks about how the invitation of a high school art teacher into a pottery class 40 years ago changed his life. Strickland says, working with clay is an enterprise that's riddled with uncertainty and fairness, and the failures can break your heart. But once in a while, you reach into that kiln and pull out a piece of work that is everything you'd hoped for. Those moments were what I lived for when I was in trouble. They gave me a high that was better than anything the streets could offer, that same rush of joy and amazement when you feel a prayer is answered or a dream comes true. And they showed me that working with clay was really all about dreaming and having the courage to hope. There are so many disappointments along the way, but then one day, out of mud and imagination, you create something lovely and worthwhile, and that feels like nothing less than a miracle. He continues. More important, of course, was the fact that I was developing a new way of seeing myself. It literally reshaped the way I saw my place in the world. My family still had no money. My father was still AWOL most of the time, and I still had to face the insanity that swirled around me on the streets. I wasn't naive enough to think my modest success with clay would put an end to all my problems. I expected my life to be difficult and filled with struggle as always. But I had reason to struggle now, and that made all the difference. He says, art is a bridge. It connects you to a wider world, to a broader experience. I don't expect a bunch of poor kids from the streets to become overnight aficionados, but don't try to tell me exposure to the arts doesn't have the power to change a human being. It gets in their bones, it gets in all our bones. I've seen it, and it's magic. Our students stop defining themselves by what they can't do and get the first glimmer of what a meaningful life might feel like. To Bill Strickland, then, beauty matters. It mattered to Henry David Thoreau as well, one of the 19th century transcendentalists who first articulated the connection between our experience of nature and beauty and our own place within it. Thoreau wrote, "The perception of beauty is a moral test." A moral test. I struggled at first to grasp the meaning of this. Is the perception of beauty a moral test? The Reverend Sean Parker Dennison interprets it thus. The ability to see beauty is the beginning of our moral sensibility. What we believe is beautiful, we will not wantonly destroy. That rings true for me as a human being and a religious person. What we here consider beautiful, the planet, each other, our Unitarian Universalist principles and purposes, we will not wantonly destroy. Beauty matters. It is all around us, in the ordinary and the extraordinary, in the stars that catch us by surprise on a cold night, in the choir's anthem, in the tenderness we show one another. Beauty is as much a way of perceiving things, responding to them, as it is things themselves. Let us be open to receive beauty in all its myriad forms. And let us be open to its call to connect in a meaningful way to a wider world, to a broader experience. May it be so. Amen.